Good afternoon. Earlier today, the Minister for Immigration, Chris Bowen, signed an agreement with his Malaysian counterpart, the Minister for Home Affairs, Minister Hishammuddin. This is the agreement about transferring asylum seekers to Malaysia that has been under negotiation since it was first announced by me on the 7th of May. This is a groundbreaking agreement which is designed to smash the business model of people smugglers. People smugglers prey on the desperation of others, and what they are seeking to sell is the hope of having their claim processed in Australia. This will smash that people smugglers business model. From today, my message to anyone who is considering paying money to a people smuggler and risking their life at sea and perhaps the lives of their family members as well is do not do that in the false hope that you will be able to have your claim processed in Australia. Under this agreement, up to 800 asylum seekers will be transferred to Malaysia. Now, I'm happy to work my way through the details of this agreement, but I do, before going there, want to make the following point. On the 7th of May, we announced that we would seek to enter such an innovative approach with Malaysia. We announced that that would be auspiced under a regional framework, the framework that was agreed in Bali. At the same time, the government made it clear that there were discussions in train with PNG. Since that time, the 7th of May, people who have arrived unauthorised have been held pending removal to a third country. The situation, of course, is that the Malaysia agreement entered into today has a date of effect following the signing of the agreement. And whilst discussions continue with PNG, this has been a difficult time in the life of that nation, with Sir Michael, a giant of that nation, unwell. So in these circumstances, the around 500 persons who have arrived since the 7th of May will have their claims processed in Australia. In relation to the Malaysian agreement, there has been considerable speculation and discussion on the questions of human rights. I understand that. This is a tough measure, but we have worked hard to ensure that there are appropriate protections in place on human rights. Asylum seekers who are transferred to Malaysia under this agreement will have their claims processed by UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It should be noted that there are around 90,000 persons in Malaysia who are seeking to have claims processed and to be treated as genuine refugees. The persons transferred to Malaysia will not get preferential processing. They will take their place alongside these 90,000 asylum seekers and they will wait their turn. Malaysia has affirmed that it will not send any of the persons transferred back to persecution in their countries of origin. That is, if people are genuine refugees and have a fear of persecution, then they will not be sent back to their country of origin in breach of the Refugee Convention. This is in fact the central tenet of the Refugee Convention. Those sent to Malaysia will be treated with dignity and respect in accordance with human rights. That's a clear commitment of the Malaysian government as part of this agreement. What that means in practice is that the persons transferred will be there with the permission and agreement of the Malaysian government. That means they will not be subject to any of the penalties imposed on illegal entrants. This means they will not be arrested and they will not be caned. They will be allowed to live in the community after a short period for health and identity checks. They will be allowed ongoing access to employment opportunities and will have access to appropriate medical care. Children will have access to education. To ensure the welfare of the asylum seekers transferred, there will be an oversight committee which will include representatives of UNHCR and also of the International Organisation for Migration, IOM, as well as officials from both countries, from Australia and from Malaysia. I want to make it clear that we will assess the circumstances of individuals prior to transfer, but there will be no blanket exemptions. UNHCR, along with IOM, have been consulted strongly during the course of this agreement's negotiations, and they will have a strong role to play in its implementation. Then, of course, as part of this agreement, Australia will take 4,000 genuine refugees from Malaysia. As I've said, there are around 90,000 asylum seekers in Malaysia as we stand here today. The 4,000 persons will be taken at the rate of 1,000 a year. They will be genuine refugees, and they will be people who have been registered in Malaysia by today. That is, the 800 people returned will not be part of the 4,000, and people who arrive in Malaysia seeking asylum after today cannot be amongst those people eligible to take a place in the 4,000. They need to have been in Malaysia and registered by the time of today. We'll continue to work closely with UNHCR, obviously, on the selection of the 4,000 people to come to our country. I believe that this agreement meets our nation's needs in two ways. We obviously want to work in our region in a cooperative way to ensure that we don't see people get on boats and risk their lives trying to come to Australia. So this agreement will better secure our borders and will also mean that we are sending the strongest possible message. Do not risk your life at sea. Do not pay a people smuggler. Do not get on a boat. Ours is also a nation with a strong history of offering resettlement opportunities to refugees from around the world, and a number of our leading Australians got here as refugees. This agreement offers 4,000 more people who are genuine refugees the opportunity to come to this country and make a new life within our nation. I've always said that the appropriate way to tackle people smuggling, a regional problem, was through a regional solution, and the Malaysia agreement is taking place under the framework which was agreed in Bali. It's a true burden-sharing agreement in line with the principles of collective responsibility and cooperation that underpin the regional cooperation framework. Can I conclude by saying there are a number of people that I would like to thank for their work in bringing this agreement to conclusion. Of course, I would like to thank Prime Minister Najib of Malaysia and his Minister Hishammuddin, for agreeing to enter these negotiations with Australia and seeing these negotiations through to today's agreement. I would also like to offer a very big thanks to the Minister for Immigration, Chris Bowen. He has worked hard on this innovative agreement, on this breakthrough agreement, and I'd like to convey my thanks to him. I'd also like to thank Ministers Rudd and O'Connor, who have worked to support the conclusion of this agreement.